It's blueberry, mango, and banana waffles. And James has pineapple along with his blueberry and banana and mango.
It's a layer waffle.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about Dark Harvest and Tethered.
Quite a cover for Tethered.
I know, it's a good one.
Is it better than the novel, or?
No, the novel's good.
There you go.
I'll let you
Truth
know
in
in a minute.
advertising. Okay. I just thought I'd lead into it there.
Okay.
But you probably want to start with the smaller one first.
Yeah, I'll start with this one. And I read this one on February 22nd.
Finished it, or did you finish it all in one day?
It might have taken me 2 days. I don't know. I didn't write
impressive.
it down. I mostly thought it was awful reading about hate crimes against the Amish. Oh no, this one took me a little longer because I didn't.
I know the feeling. There's lots of books that I'm still in the process of reading, and it's 30 years down the road. I've got through 10 to 14 pages, you know.
Yeah. Was interesting in a way to listen to at a time when the CBC hosts and politicians are being divisive. The end of the book was good. I thought of saying aloud, "And you'll never see another movie again," at the end of the story. You'd get it if you got to the end of the story. It wasn't very believable. It was a happy ending, but it wasn't very believable. The reading group discussion questions included at the end were dumb. They didn't have much to do with the story. How do you feel about the Amish? That sort of thing. The get caught reading at sea there is a coupon to go on a cruise with authors. It's so dumb. You get to the back of the book and it's like, you can spend 7 days on a Western Caribbean cruise with a bunch of authors, and it's like, so you're paying for the authors to go on a cruise. Really? Yeah.
Now, how many authors are they talking about? Like, it could be a half dozen authors and like 500 other people. I don't know how many people.
I don't know.
But it doesn't. I mean, you're on the tour with the authors, but are you like trading professional tips with them? You know, like with Stephen King, like that. What do you do in this situation? You know, like the authors would be in the equivalent of, you know, when I was on ships, it wasn't cruise ships. We were going in between continents. You know, North America to Europe, and then Europe down to Africa. And there were these were British ships, and they had various classes. So we went tourist class, and I'm going, what is tourist class? I think it was the lowest class. Maybe it was the middle class one. Probably lowest class. But the way the upper class, wow! It's not just the way the upper class lived, the way they traveled. It was stunning. You know, like they had a lounge. That doesn't convey to you. The lounge was like something that you see in a European castle. It was the equivalent of 2 stories and things like that. So, different kind of life. What was the title of this thing? Was it Dark something or other?
Yeah, Dark Harvest.
There we go. She loves dark in her titles. There were 2 other titles in her oeuvre here. Dark Road Home, Dark Angel, and then there is, what's the other one? The Stone Forest, which sounds kind of dark, so I don't know.
Okay, so Tethered. This was an excellent novel. It's an excellent title too. It tethers the ending to the title, containing the story within. Life and love holding a story about death and absence of love, which somehow turns the horrific into a beautiful story of hope. Everyone should read this book. Okay, now I have an afterthought that I put in. I should mention that I didn't find it believable that the main character happened upon the girl's apartment. You'd understand if you read the book. But if one accepts that she may have been guided there by God or his angels, it becomes acceptable.
So let's see that
great book.
cover. Yeah. That's
It's really good.
Pardon
book.
my French.
I didn't expect it to be. I would highly recommend everyone read it. So now James is going to talk about
Margaret Went.
Yes.
So she's even older than I am. I think she's probably still writing columns for the Globe and Mail. How would I make a mistake like that? But yeah, I'll show you the cover. It is kind of amusing. Right? You saw this cover. Well, you
Yes.
saw it because you picked the book up from.
Yeah,
Understand,
I got it from
she
the free
didn't
library.
pay any money
No.
for it. So there's Margaret. They probably say her name Wendt, but I think she comes from German extraction. It's probably
Probably going back there.
Venta or something like that. So we don't want to say this too wrong for people who actually know how this word should be pronounced. But it is kind of a charming cover. I've got to say, I don't like it usually when people wrap themselves in flags, but
Yeah.
it is kind of amusing.
Did she do it after or before Colbert did it?
The American flag? I don't
Yeah,
know.
Colbert
When did
did it.
Colbert do that, roughly?
know.
This is 2009,
I don't
so
know.
it's like 13 years ago or something like that. And so most people who wrap themselves in the flag, I'd say, stop that now. Take that flag off. But what I'm going to say to her is, keep that flag on, Mark. Keep it on there. Yeah, she's got the kind of duck lips going. She talked in there about getting her Botox on
Oh.
her lips and stuff like that. And it was just like spur of the moment. It must be
wow.
nice to have had money. Not necessarily have it, but a silly kind of thing. So I actually made notes here about stuff
That
to
is
refer to.
unlike you.
Yeah, I know. I got sick and tired of not remembering exactly
Yeah.
what's happening. So you've got a good idea about putting the notes in. I try to learn.
Well, I can't remember things. I mean, I didn't remember. I was looking at this Dark Harvest book, and I'm like, I don't know which one this was.
Yeah, so here's what I opened it to. It was amazing. Topical. 2000 and... I have 2034 because I'm thinking of the dates. Maybe 234 maybe? Oh yeah, page 78. So this is what I opened it up to. It's kind of...
Yeah, it was interesting because I brought it home. We waited for it to debug, right?
It would be 5 days.
And
That's the standard.
then he opens it up to read it, and it was
It was so this is published in
Yeah.
2001, year after economic meltdown worldwide started in the United States. What really worries me is that our kids are never going to. I don't think she's ever had a kid. Our kids are never going to forgive us. We gave them everything. We never told them life could be so unfair. We never told them our real legacy would be a pile of debt as high as Mount Everest. She has no problem, apparently, with hyperbole, or at least using it. And 25 or 35 or 30 years from now, so I did some calculations, that would be 2034 to 2039. So it's a little bit early for a prediction. And 25 or 30 years from now, when the boomers are sucking the last dollars from the healthcare system, we shouldn't be surprised if they sneak in. Like she has trouble with the reference.
yeah.
Because the way it's here, it refers to the boomers.
Yeah.
But actually what she wants to refer to is their kids. If they sneak in and turn off, she's a boomer, turn off our ventilators. Hey, yeah. So Pauline has said, what were you saying about COVID? And it was a plan to
Kill off the old people.
Kill off the old people. And then I commented, I said, it's
Well,
good
I mean, that wasn't the original plan by the Chinese.
by the People's Republic of China. Exactly right.
But that's why our politicians brought it in, let it come in.
They certainly didn't care about the older folks. Now, a lot of them are pre-boomers and stuff like that. But this has been a trope, shall we say, of right-wingers for a long time. We won't be able to handle it when the baby boomers retire. And then they're saying we've got to cut back on debt, cut back on healthcare system because we won't be able to afford it. If you look at the demographics, here's how it goes. The baby boom was huge. Lots of the boomers have died off and all that. if you actually look at what it is on the demographics, it's this little blip. And look closely, because it goes like this, and then it goes down again. You see, but what they want to do is for you to assume that that's blip is going to be something the opposite of a cliff that'll keep on, speaking of Mount Everest, that'll keep on going up and up and up. No, you've just got to handle that little blip, and then the demand on the healthcare system will be down to what it was before, or actually going down from there. See how that works out? Now, she calls it a Mount Everest of debt, or she says a debt as high. She's using a simile, not a metaphor, as I was remembering. As high as Mount Everest. How bad is the deficit? It's bad. But what's important is per capita debt. So, it's bad in the United States. How bad is it, though? What you got to look at is not the overall debt, but per capita debt, because that indicates how easy or hard it is to pay off. Per capita debt. The population in the United States, the population in Canada is significantly higher than it was after World War II. Both countries had to borrow in order to finance their efforts in World War II. Check it out. The per capita debt in the United States, and I assume in Canada too, was higher after World War II than it is now. Now, it took a little while for the United States and for Canada, presumably. But for the United States, these are the figures that I've run across. And they're going to run across you, because I'm not going to let you fake conservatives going around, hey, we're really conservative. Like we're taking, you notice how she's thinking about taking care of the future, and yet they've been the ones that have been running the debt up in Canada and in the United States. There's nothing quite like the Reagan era for running the debt up. They weren't running it up on helping people out, they were running it up on the military. And yes, unfortunately, that expenditure was necessary in order to help run the Soviet system into the ground and grind it into the ground. But like when you do stuff like that, and if it's important, and if it's right-wingers that are especially enthused about it, you'd expect for them to pay their share. But they didn't. The reason why the Americans were able to pay off their war debt after World War II is they actually taxed the rich a little bit. Not much, but they taxed them a little bit. And they had the stuff paid off. They paid it off. It's possible by taxing the rich just a wee little bit to have the debt paid off in Canada and to have it paid off in the United States in something like record time, because the per GDP debt in the United States is not as high as it was at the end of World War II, and they paid that off. That is before COVID. I don't know what it's like after COVID, but it's still payable off. Now, what do I mean about the rich being taxed? They do pay taxes. We watched this wonderful documentary where Warren Buffett was on there. Warren Buffett, one of the richest guys in the world, complaining about his tax rate. He was complaining, and his tax rate was 13%. There was another guy on it. He had an even lower tax rate, 8%, and he was complaining. But the funny thing is, Warren Buffett back in 2008 was supporting a guy called Barack Obama. And he was supporting, Warren Buffett was supporting the Democrats too. And in this documentary, he was complaining about his tax rate. He was complaining about it being too low. The other guy, who had an 8% tax rate, lower than Warren Buffett's, his was 13, was complaining about his being too high. He wanted to pay less than 8%. You people in the middle class, you people in the lower classes, what tax rate do you pay? Once you get past a certain figure, I think it's something like, once you get past a certain amount that you don't have to pay on, I think it's something like 25%. So here you've got a billionaire in the United States paying 8%, and it's too high for him. Tax that guy. That's what Warren Buffett says. He says tax that guy, and you know what? Is he being hypocritical? No, he's saying tax me too. That's what I mean about taxing the rich a little bit more than the little bit that they're taxed right now. Yeah, they get taxed a little bit, but hey, they can afford to pay. They can afford to pay and pay and pay and pay and pay, and they'll never pay through the nose.
Well, it would be sort of like, eventually, like if they were paying a little bit more, it'd be like they were paying on the loan that has been given to them for so long, where they haven't actually been taxed fairly.
Well, exactly.
If you look at it that way.
Yeah. So Margaret went. It's time you went. You get the punt. Yeah, maybe not. But at any rate, yeah. You seem very concerned about the debt. I want you to get in your column now that you've heard this. We're assuming that you actually have some taste in this podcast. I want you to get in your column and insist that the rich people in Canada pay their fair share. And as Pauline says, make up for the fair share that they haven't been sharing for the longest while. Okay? Speaking of the rich, like page 32, Conrad Black. She has a whole chapter on Conrad Black and Brian Mulroney, and she thinks that they've been treated somewhat unfairly. In the jury's eyes, the magnitude of Lord Black's crimes came closer to Martha Stewart's than to those of the WorldCom or Enron execs. So WorldCom and Enron, those were horrible corruption scandals. This was no $450 million fraud, as one accuser had insisted. So I guess they accused Conrad Black of a $450 million fraud, or even a $60 million fraud, as the prosecution insisted. In the end, the jury found him guilty for defrauding the shareholders of $6.5 million. Not peanuts, but not enough to merit decades in prison either. If I stole $6.5 million, if Pauline stole $6.5 million, we'd be doing decades in jail. She's trying to make it seem as though it's not peanuts, but hey, it's about the same. Yeah. So here she is, she's doing the usual thing, dismissing these, trying to make misdemeanors out of crimes. Now, here, I don't know if I've read a note about Brian Mulroney, but basically what she says about Brian Mulroney is, well, he hasn't been found guilty. Not in Canada. I want, this is a cold case that I want them to really turn the burner on. Because someone released the fact that the RCMP was investigating Brian Mulroney. Brian Mulroney threatened a lawsuit. I think the suit was actually carried out, and he won $1 million or so from, I believe it was the federal government, Canadian government. The person who revealed that should be cooling their heels in jail. I want the heat turned up on that investigation, on that cold case. I don't think they're even investigating. Brian Mulroney, the guy who bribed him, Karl-Heinz Schreiber, I think he's Airbus or something like that. He's such a cheap hooker. I think it was like $300,000. Can you imagine? What a sleaze bucket. Karl-Heinz Schreiber was convicted of bribing Brian Mulroney. He was convicted in a Brian Mulroney was guilty, okay? So don't be saying he's never found guilty. You know, Carl, he's never found guilty, but he was guilty, okay? They found Schreiber guilty of bribing him, right? And it's not as though the administrations in Europe are, have kangaroo courts and stuff like that. They're not corrupt like Russia or something like that. So don't be like trying to she's not even buddies with Conrad Black. Like, she said something that Barbara Emile, Conrad Black's wife, didn't agree with. So the last time she saw Barbara Emile turned a cold shoulder to her. And I just, Barbara Emile turned my cold shoulder to me. I'm going, that's good, Barbara. You keep it that way. Because I have to look at your bum or something like that, you stupid ass. But at least I don't have to talk with you. You usually puke. Like someone like that not talking to me, it's like, don't do that. It only encourages me, Well, stupid Barbara Emile. She should be realizing who her friends are. People like Barbara or Margaret Wendt or Venta or whatever her name is. Okay, so she's a Canadian of American descent. Oftentimes when she goes on holidays, she goes down to North Carolina. She's got relatives there, Virginia, but she hails apparently from Chicago. I think she was born. So, born 1949. So she's a boomer, right? She's a little bit older than my brother and about 5 years older than I am. So, predictions of economy, page 25. So, what has she got? She's got her, she moved to Toronto in her teens and still lives there today. She holds a BA from the University of Michigan. And it's a big university. It's not the most prestigious in the world. And an MA in English in English literature from the University of Toronto. That's a more prestigious university than the University of Michigan. I presume that's the University of Michigan is the one in Ann Arbor, just outside of Detroit, basically southwest of Detroit. Or west-southwest. Anyway, English literature. What does she know about economy? Why is she writing in the Globe and Mail, which is supposed to be Canada's newspaper of record, particularly for the business class, or the business class list? Yeah. Okay. So this was published in 2009, 1 year approximately after the economic meltdown. We also know that we are rich beyond our grandparents' wildest dreams for a while. That for the while isn't there anymore. We like to think that's because we work hard and are smart. Well, I work hard and I'm smart, and Pauline works hard and she's smart, but like we like to think. I don't include her. I don't think she works hard, and she's definitely not smart. But really, it's because we won the lottery. What is this? The economy had been on a roll for years. Okay, 2008. It had been on a roll for years because they'd elected the Democrats. Bill Clinton, the longest peacetime economic recovery during the Bill Clinton administration. And what she didn't realize is they hadn't been on a roll for years. Check out the stats. I know them. There was a recession first year of Bush's administration. So they hadn't been on a roll for years. It was a small recession, but yeah. It hadn't been on a roll for years. She doesn't know her stats. I know them better off the top of my head. We bought houses in Toronto way back when they were cheap and planned to reap a windfall from one of the greatest real estate run-ups of all time. Well, it wasn't really great in the sense of it wasn't good for the economy. But yeah, now those happy days are gone and the housing market has grown cold. So some of these things she didn't actually write. The stuff that actually makes sense, that's me adding my little footnotes. Despite some upticks in the stock market, the recession in the United States looks to be long and hard. this was published, unless it was published early in 2009, the recession was over halfway through 2009. Check the stats out, Margie. Yeah. So long and hard. A recession that lasts 2 quarters, which is half a year, is as short as a recession can get. That's the definition of a recession. 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. And that's what it was. Again, I know this off the top of my head. Check it out. Okay? The recession in the United States looks to be long and hard, and the fallout from it has been hard. It's still going on. There is a silver lining, though. The bloated financial industry will shrink back to its proper size. Oh, right. You know what happened? They had a crash, and then the stock market went up and up and up and went up it went up actually, I think, more per unit year during the Obama administration than it went up during the Trump administration. It kind of faltered at the end of the Trump administration. It took a long while for some of those stock investors in the United States and elsewhere to figure out that Trump wasn't the golden boy that they figured he was going to be. The only thing golden about him is his dye job. What is it that he puts on his hair? Jeez. It looks like pigeon poop. You know, the yellow part of pigeon poop or something like that. I don't know what the problem is with him. But, the bloated financial industry will shrink back. It's not might shrink back to its proper size. The best and brightest of our sons and daughters will no longer be sucked up by the fast money world of investment banking. I wish that were true. I wish maybe not the best and the brightest, but people who know calculus would actually go into mathematics, and the people who know a little bit of mathematics would go into computer science or combinatorics and stuff like that. Maybe some of them will decide to be doctors or teachers instead. Yeah, what we need is doctors and computer scientists. Teachers, we've got enough of. I won't say too much. Some might even make things. Yeah. So, as an economist, she sucks. Hey, he doesn't know anything about it. He's making these stupid predictions. The reason why the economy recovered, at least in terms of GDP, was because Obama was elected and he was able to turn the economy around. That would have been a good prediction, Margie, if the Republicans had been elected under McCain. They don't know how to handle the economy. Okay, this one's amazing. So, Pauline, can you review for me? How long would it take us to fill our garbage bin? You and I.
Oh, a year.
A year! Okay.
Humongous.
Okay, 87. What did she say? So she doesn't like various recycling things very much. Every time I think I finally mastered the rules, that's the rules of recycling, the city, that would be Toronto, changes them. And now every household has been made to buy a garbage bin. All the garbage has to fit into the bin. If you miss a week, you're dinked. You'll never catch up. She and her hubby, there are no kids left. She's born in 49, and so she'd be roughly 60 years old when this came out. No kids around. I don't think she